Peace and blessings to the hearers and the doers of the Lord's word. How's everybody's doing out there? This is the Awakening Podcast, and this is Super Solican. I want to go ahead and get into this message for the Lord. People, us today, like people today, we're going to start seeing, us as believers, we're going to start seeing a different level of hatred. Like the prophets today, which is the modern day believers and the prophets, those you're gonna start seeing a different level of hatred towards them from the secular community and from non-believers. You're gonna start seeing you see it every day. Like I pay attention to street preachers, different pastors. I go out into the world every day. I speak to people on online. I have many platforms for Christ. And if just by talking with people online and on social media, you get nothing but vitriol from people that you're trying to help. You have people making whole group pages mocking the living God and mocking Christians and believers. They have used their very precious time to create a page mocking and trolling the living God and other believers. This isn't anything new. I mean, look at what people did to the prophets. Have always had a hard time. The believers, they've always had an uphill battle. Even Moses, look at what Moses had to endure with his own people. Moses didn't even leave. Moses couldn't turn his back for 2 seconds before people back to their old ways, talking behind Moses' back, speaking ill towards him, seeing all the miracles and things he did for God. They still turned on him, still was ready to cause a mutiny and uprising against him. When they were wandering in the wilderness, these people, and these were God's chosen people acting like this, treating Moses this way. Seeing Moses did all of that for them, freed them from Pharaoh by doing mighty miracles. God was doing mighty miracles through this man, showing, and that's why God says, look, God, that they not rejecting you, they rejecting me. You know what I'm saying? God is saying they ain't rejecting you. This is what God told Samuel in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 8 verse 7. This is the book of 1 Samuel chapter 8 verse 7. The Lord told him, listen to all the people, listen to what they are saying to you. It is not you that they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king. In the context, because these people, Israel, was demanding a king. They were demanding a physical king to be like all the other nations. This is God's chosen people, how rebellious they are, were demanding a physical king in place of God. They were saying we need a physical king on earth like everybody else. The same way we got a president now, the same way we have that you have a senator, same way you have a state senator. All these people, they wanted stuff like, they didn't want God himself to lead them. So God was like, look, he told Samuel, he was like, listen to all they saying to you, but don't you be offended, because they not rejecting you, they're rejecting me. And this is the same way that us as believers have to feel, have to move, and we have to have ultimate understanding of that. That when we going about, take yourself out the equation. It ain't about you. When you preaching that gospel cut like a sword. The gospel convicts, it cuts, it grabs people's attention. It's the gift that keeps on giving. You understand? It's the product you don't have to sell. It sells itself. Jesus Christ don't even need you. He don't need us. Jesus Christ, he said, if we didn't say nothing, the rocks, the stones will cry out. Like, the conscience is what convicts people, of the word and of truth. So when the prophets, when you giving that word of God, people get convicted in that, and any type of manner of rebellion that's in them starts to lash out. If they have demonic oppression, it's lashing out. You know, so you have to understand that it's not per se you that they mad at. It's not per se you that they want to argue with. Like when you have preachers preaching, and you have people want to stop, and they don't have to stop. They can keep moving, but they always stop. They want to engage the preacher, arguing with him all day, interrupting his sermon. Why are you arguing and debating with him? Let him rock. He don't have time to be arguing and debating with you. Trying to save souls and give the word. It ain't no debate. Go read your Bible. This is age-old knowledge. This is knowledge. This ain't new. You understand? Some people kill me, all these debates and everything, man. That stuff is it's just some of the worst stuff you can ever. It's just some of the worst waste of time. One of the biggest wastes of time that you can endure. Like, you know, and it said, when you argue with a fool, it's like it make both of y'all look crazy. You know what I'm saying? So but understand, when people come spitting in the face of street preachers, or or talking about pastors, or doing everything they can to slander them or things like that, look, God is looking at that. God got your back. Don't even worry about it. And you should pray for their forgiveness, because they don't even know what they doing. Like, they so far gone, they don't even get it. You know, this ain't a Drake album. Like, they so far gone, they don't even get what's going. They don't even get what they doing. Like I said, I just told you, look at the Israelites, how Moses led them through everything, freed them from captivity in a weakness. When they was just slaves, they didn't have nothing. They was just they were getting abused, misused. Moses do all of this, go do everything he could, put his life on the line, go follow God to the T, show you the many miracles of God. And what do? These people saw it firsthand. They still turned on Moses. They still was talking about killing him, talking about, you know, how you led us there, how you do us like this, and all this talking, this crazy foolishness, man. You know, so don't expect. And look, let's go one step further. To the greatest man that ever lived, Jesus Christ, Yeshua. Look at what they did to him. Look at what was done to the disciples. Most of the disciples followed Jesus Christ literally in dying horrible deaths. They followed him. They took up their cross. In the beginning of establishing the church, man, those men died horrible deaths. And that's, you know, Jesus Christ. Look at what happened to him. This is the Son of God. He was committing many miracles, casting out demons, helping the world alike, giving them understanding, bringing light to the world. What did they do? Humans killed him horribly, tortured him. They tortured him. That's what happens, because that light harm it. If you're moving in Satan's darkness, that light harms you. It hurts. It hurts to convict you of your sin, especially if you don't know that there's forgiveness there for those sins. It hurts to face those things. So instead of facing them, people just want to rid the world of the very thing that is convicting them of that wrongdoing. So if you have the same way when Herod was committing that adultery, doing all of that foolishness with that woman's daughter, John the Baptist was there telling him that was wrong. He was telling Herod that what you doing is wrong, and Herod respected John. Yeah, King Herod respected John the Baptist. But what John was telling Herod, that when you sleeping with your wife's daughter, you know, or this was the wife of Herod's brother. See, two of Herod's sons were Herod Philip and Herod Antipas. Herod Philip married a woman called Herodias. When Herod Antipas, his brother, visited him, he wanted Herodias for his wife. He wanted his brother's wife for himself. So Herod Antipas divorced his own wife and married Herodias. She, of course, had to divorce Herod Philip, her brother, first. The Jewish law didn't permit such behavior. So John the Baptist, the only thing he did was call it out as being wrong. When he called that out as being wrong, what he did was made Herodias very angry. And so Herod ordered John's arrest. When John said that that was wrong, what you do, you committing adultery. Both of you are committing a great adultery. But because the woman wanted to do whatever she wanted to do with free carte blanche, with no pushback, she was angry with the prophet John the Baptist. John was a great prophet. He was the one who ushered Jesus Christ into the earth, the living God. God had a high favor and calling on John's life. But he still was preaching, doing nothing wrong, was still sent to be arrested with the criminal, arrested like a common criminal. And the only reason behind that is because, like I said, the people, they are developing a deep hatred and a deep disdain for the prophets and the people of God. The reason why is because they have the light of the living God in them. And that light is built to shine upon the darkness and convict it. No matter what, like we all come from that place. I was lost too. We all was lost. We all come from the same darkness. So I know what you're in. But that light that shone upon me, I didn't reject it. I needed it. I ran to it like grim death. And that's what I implore you to do. When you hear preachers and stuff giving you that light, instead of arguing with them all day, trying to talk about, trying to harm them or get them arrested or do some stupid stuff, why don't you get with the message and sit and learn from them? And you can't learn while you talking. Sit and shut up. I'm serious. That's how I had to do the same thing in school. I did the same thing with my pastor. I did the same. I do the same thing on the daily when the Lord speaking to me, I ain't talking back. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting and shut up, no matter if it make me feel, if I'm convicted in my heart, no matter how it make me feel. You know what I'm saying? Y'all too much in y'all emotions. And that's why you can never follow God in his truth. In truth, you can't. You in love and truth, you couldn't do it. Because you too emotional, too worried about what people think. You too worried about, living your own life. You too, and in turn, you develop a selfishness, a pride about yourself. And to where, again, when anybody disagree with you, you want to kill them. Like you see that on the world today. In the world today, you see so many people just with intolerance all over, written everywhere. Like they're separated in factions and groups. And if you say one thing that disagrees with this group, you get ostracized from it. There is no forgiveness. It's an unforgiveness on the earth right now. The only forgiveness you're going to get is through Jesus Christ. God, that is the greatest sacrifice, example of love, and the greatest sacrifice that's ever been done. The living God, the creator, he holds your life in his hands like an ant. He could have snuffed this whole earth out, but he decided at a certain point in time to make a living sacrifice, to give himself a holy life for you. Are you willing to accept that gift? That's a free gift. That's a once in a lifetime offer. You're not going to see that on nowhere on this earth again. Because what you're going to get with these factions that you follow in the world, you're going to get ostracized. You're going to be thinking that everything's all good. One day you do one thing, you try to go have your own mind or do this. And then that group is going to be like, no, you do not. Satan is because he's the one who runs the systems of these world. He's going to be like, no, you do not. You owe me. And say when Satan come to collect, a lot of stuff start going on, bad stuff. Your life get taken. Take the life of your son. He'll take the life of your daughter. Satan will start moving throughout your household, ruining your finances, making sacrifices. Yes. So, but for the believers, man, I want to leave you with this encouragement. Look, you already know what it is. You already know that this is what our fight. We have a battle over here, or we have a battle down here on earth, but we already know that God, Jesus Christ, has already attained the victory. And this flesh sack that we wearing, ain't nobody worried about this. You could just destroy it, because soon as you destroy this flesh right here, you will unlock the true power, my true power. Then you will reveal my true self. And then that's when you really have a problem. Because we already know, like, there are no enemies of God. There's no one who can face God. You can Satan himself and his angels try to face God. And if you read the it's a book I really love, Paradise Lost. Satan himself was tried to test God's almighty power. But when that big, huge force, Satan was powerful. That force behind him, powerful angel beings going against God and his man, and God struck them down, sent them down to hell. So he sent them down to earth. You understand? Struck them down, sent them down to darkness. Before there was light on the earth, God sent them into the dark deep. That's where he sent them to. And they understood in that instance that God was almighty. You can't fight against him. You understand? That's a futility. So you trying to fight against God's people. Okay, we're built here, Christians. It's built in our faith to turn the other cheek. But you think we some punks, pushover. Don't play with us. You understand? You're playing with fire. You're playing with the living God. When you see street preachers out preaching the word, people trying to push them, harm them, go ahead and do your thing. But see, they can go ahead and turn the other cheek and go about and do their will for the Lord, and give you forgiveness. But the Lord looking at you, God is going to judge you. You ain't going to get past that judgment. God says those who mock the Lord, when you in your calamity, when you in the hospital bed, you got COVID-55, you can't breathe, God is saying, I'm laughing at you. That's what God is saying. That's what the Bible says, that God is laughing. Those people, remember, at the times for those who mock God, those who put their hands on the people of God, those who spit upon the people of God, those who when they heard a word, they roll their eyes, or they always got somewhere else to be, or those who will say out of their mouth insulting things towards God, like, oh, God is there for some, try to compare him to fairy tales and things like that. Fine, okay. But when you are in your calamity, worst times of your life, when you in that accident and it's a 4-car collision, bang, bang, you getting pinball from left to right. Now you pinned in the vehicle. Don't worry. Don't trip. Don't ask for God's help. Just wait on Satan, because God's laughing at you. Okay? So don't think that you're doing the prophets no harm, or doing them no. We can endure that. Like I said, man, please, this flesh right here, the second that this go in the ground, or the second that this flesh is done, that's like putting the lock and key. That's like putting the key into the earth. You're gonna start seeing great things happen. Like my greater things are outside of this flesh. You're gonna start seeing peculiar things happen on the earth. You're going to start seeing more of that, because God's spirit is coming closer to the earth. The return of Christ is coming closer and closer. You remember, you killed Jesus Christ, but that spirit, what we are all, that eternal energy we all made of, the spirit of Jesus Christ is coming back. God is a spirit. You don't understand what that is. He's traversing realms. The spirit is moving like Dragon Ball Z. Your spirit, I have visions of this. I do this in my visions. God give me visions and dreams where I'm doing this, where I'm flying. You got super strength. You teleporting here, going to this dimension, you going here. This is how the spirit works. But the weak flesh is what we just confined to, and when people is put all their faith in that. You putting all your faith in this flesh that's born to die. But I'm telling you, don't try to. You people need to have a certain. But I understand. You don't have a fear for the Lord. Just like I said, you're rejecting God when you reject the prophets, when you reject His people trying to give you the gospel, and you do them harm while they trying to do good. All you're doing is rejecting God. It's not them that you reject. You're rejecting God, and you don't want to follow him. You want to follow Satan. But like I said, go ahead and do that. You know what I'm saying? You play stupid games, you get stupid prizes. You understand? So you go ahead and do that. But I'm telling you that when you racked in pain, all this stuff, you don't know. It's a book thick as ever of all these illnesses, unknown illnesses. When you go when you got SARS up the infections up the leg, that's going and creeping to the bone. You got infections that's seeping from your knee bone. It's coming up your spine, and it's traveling to your brain. It's traveling to your brain. You have ticks. You don't know what's going on. That's your calamity. God's laughing at you. But do you remember the time? The reason why? Do you remember the times that many prophets, many people have came to you with the gospel, and in turn, you didn't just humbly take it or be like, look, okay, I hear you. No, you mocked God. You sat there and tried to compare God to a fairy tale. You tried to compare Jesus Christ to Santa Claus. You did all of this foolishness. You spit on the prophets. You spit on the people of God. You took their speaker. You know what I'm saying? You kicked their signs over. You put your hands on them. You cursed them. So remember those times, because you're gonna recall that, because God's gonna put it in your mind to recall that. And that in turn is why you're not getting a healing. That in turn is why it's just going to go from 0 to 60. And that in turn is why that inner voice, when you're going to hear laughter. God's laughing. Okay? You think Jesus Christ is some punk. That's your problem. You don't understand God. You don't understand his character. And and this is thus saith the Lord. I'm going to end it and give you the verse. All right. This is Proverbs, and this is chapter 1, verse 20. Wisdom shouts in the streets for a hearing. She calls out to the crowds along the main street, and to the judges in their courts, and to everyone in all the land. You simpletons, she cries. How long will you go on being fools? How long will you scoff at wisdom and fight the facts? Come here and listen to me. I'll pour out the spirit of wisdom upon you and make you wise. I have called you so often, but you still won't come. I have pleaded, but all in vain, for you have spurned my counsel and my reproof. Someday you'll be in trouble, and I'll laugh. Mock me, will you? I'll mock you. When a storm of terror surrounds you, and when you are engulfed by anguish and distress, then I will not answer for your cry for help. It will be too late, though you will search for me anxiously. You turn your back on me, spurning my advice. So now you have to eat the bitter fruit of having your own way and experience the full terror of the pathway you have chosen. For you have turned away from me to death. Your own complacency will kill you. Fools! But all who listen to me shall live in peace and safety unafraid. There you have it. This is God's word. That's thus saith the Lord. So with that being said, this is the Awakening Podcast. Peace and blessings to the hearers and the doers of the Lord's word. I'm gone.